bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Just a reminder that over on the Lakers Nation Facebook page, we are rolling something out this season. We're doing post-game video shows on Facebook Live. That's after every Lakers game. You've got myself and Jas Kang are on there talking all about what's going on with the Lakers and recapping the game, giving you all the info that you need. So make sure you go check that out over on the Lakers Nation Facebook page. And of course, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or whatever it is that you find podcasts. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about because as always, there's a million things going on in the NBA right now. So I'm bringing in Keith Smith of Real GM, Yahoo, and Celtics blog to help break it all down. Keith, always a great time when we get to come on the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Excited to go around the league with you. There's, like you said, there's no shortage of stories happening right now.
Yeah, there's a ton of things. And I guess, you know, we didn't even talk about this before the show. We went over a few of the topics we discussed. But I think one of the things, it's always nice to hear a positive story. Caris LeVert, I mean, what happened to him? That was a grotesque injury. It was horrifying. I thought for sure his season is over. And then we got actually some relatively good news today that he's going to be actually maybe back this season, that it was just a dislocation and not a horrific break like we saw from Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I'm stunned. I don't know any other way to put it than to say it that way.
Unbelievable.
I did not see it live, and then I made the mistake before I saw anybody saying don't watch. Somebody put up one of the clips, and I was like, oh my god! And it instantly went right back to Gordon Hayward. Almost a little over a year ago, and I was like, well, poor Caris LeVert. He's really stepped up. He's playing great, and now that's probably going to be it for him for this year, and probably hamper him into next. And now we're hearing a dislocation, and might be back by the end of the season, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. It's great news. I'm super excited because he's a great kid, and he's worked really, really hard to overcome some other injuries to get to this point. So I'm really excited that that's relatively that's all it was, and that he's going to be okay. So that's good thoughts his way, and hopefully he gets back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You hate seeing injuries like that. Of course, the Gordon Hayward one is the first that comes to mind, but there have been a number like that in the NBA, and it seemed like LeVert was going to be suffering from something very, very serious here, and that he was going to be out for a long time. And who knows how a player is going to recover from something like that. So glad to hear that it's not as bad as it looked, and that he could actually return this season. It sounds like the Nets are fairly confident that he will be back this season. So that's great to hear. Keith, one of the things that I guess I want to kick things off with here is with the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers fans are super pumped up right now about the addition of Tyson Chandler. Obviously, he had the game-saving block against the Atlanta Hawks. He blocked Trae Young's shot at the buzzer. He's provided a lot of toughness to the team. We know Suns fans aren't too thrilled right now because of how well Tyson Chandler is playing and how poorly he played for them. But the thing that sticks out to me is that the Lakers went into this season with this center rotation of JaVale McGee, Ivica Zubac, and Mo Wagner, basically conceding that they were going to play small ball. They were going to play small. They were going to run Kyle Kuzma at the center position, and that was how they were going to play. They were going to run teams off the floor. Kuzma was going to hit threes and make it hard for opposing bigs to get out to him, and all of that. And that was their plan. And here we are. Now we're a dozen games in, a little bit more than that. And they have completely abandoned that. The Lakers are playing with a true center on the floor at all times, whether it's JaVale McGee or Tyson Chandler. Even the few minutes that those two weren't on the floor, they had Ivica Zubac out there. What's your take on this? We know the small ball revolution is a real thing in the NBA. But what do you think about the Lakers kind of pushing back against that and switching strategies so early in the season?
Yeah, I think the way the season started off was they weren't going to be anywhere near where they needed to be defensively without having some form of size on the floor. LeBron James is an amazing player, but he's not a rim protector. he's never going to be that. Kyle Kuzma's not that guy. So you're basically forfeiting any form or fashion of rim protection. The other thing we know with LeBron is he doesn't really like to play the 4 all that much. He's content to do it, in crunch time of games and obviously in playoff moments and those kind of things. But he's not going to do that for 6 months. He doesn't want to play the 4. And if you're going to not have a traditional center out there very often, you're going to ask him to play the 4. Never mind that. He might even have to play some of the 5. And that just had disaster written all over it. So I think what they did was they made a look and said, all right, well, JaVale McGee's holding it down for us. He's, playing pretty well, inside. He's doing his thing there. So that's, really exciting to see that. And I just looked it up. He's averaging 13.7 points per game, which is just I didn't know it was that many. That's kind of blew my own mind when I just saw that stat.
Its defenses are getting so distracted by LeBron that JaVale's getting all these easy little dump off dunks, and and he's just feasting. He's been a revelation for sure. I mean, I don't think anybody expected this out of him. Tyson Chandler today actually said he feels like JaVale is playing the best basketball of his entire career, and no argument there. I think he absolutely is.
Yeah, I don't know how he's not, 13.7, 7.4 rebounds, 3 blocks, shooting 62%. Like, that's just, I knew he was having a good year because I've watched a lot, but I guess I hadn't really looked at the stats. So that's just, wow, good for him. But to go back to that, sorry, it completely derailed us just because I was so stunned by those numbers. But, Tyson Chandler now basically what you've done is you have 2 viable options. When you're talking about Zubac and Mo Wagner, like Wagner, he's probably not even really a 5. He's probably more of a stretch 4. Right. In Zubac, he's up and down. I know he has his moments, but if you're going to be a serious playoff team, you don't really want him on the floor. Now you have 2 credible options. And the more important part is kind of what you said with JaVale. These are 2 guys that you don't need to run a single play for them. Just hang out around the basket, be in the lob spot, be in that dunker spot, and we'll get you the ball, on occasion and focus on playing defense and rebounding. And that's really working out for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a model of consistency. And I think that's been key because early in the season, you saw the Lakers trying to switch to this small ball lineup with Kuzma at the center. And they would do that, when JaVale McGee would go out. And it's such a change for them that it was jarring, and you could see it was difficult for the players on the floor to deal with. And now with Tyson Chandler and JaVale McGee, you have 2 guys who are very similar in terms of their playing style. Yeah, Chandler doesn't have the springs that JaVale McGee does right now. JaVale is the superior lob catcher, but Tyson Chandler sets just bone crushing screens, usually illegal screens, by the way, but he gets away with them more often than not. And so they're at least similar in terms of their playing style. So there's some continuity there between the first and the second unit. And that was something that was big for the Lakers this year. So I think so far it's been impressive with how well these 2 have worked together. I know it's only 3 games, but still Lakers fans are pretty excited about what they've seen from Tyson Chandler and this new center combo and no longer having to deal with Kyle Kuzma struggling at the center position.
Yeah, absolutely. And they should be excited. And, the other thing with Kuzma is what gets forgotten is not only is he not stopping anybody when he's playing the 5, but it also causes his offense to suffer. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of why, he's still under 33 or under 30% from the 3-point line. And I think that is, one of the things when you look at that and that's like, well, he's obviously a better shooter than that. But I think he's so focused on, all right, well, I got to get there. I got to get position. I got to, stop this early post up action, whatever it is. Teams don't run the traditional, throw it like the Laker fans are used to, throw it in the Shaq and,
right.
Let them back guys down and overpower them. That doesn't happen. But what teams do is if they can get the big out there quick, they run quick post ups out of transition actions. And what I noticed with Kuzma was there was a lot of times he wasn't even getting off a great consistent look because the shot was going up, and before he even finished his form, he's already kind of worried about, I got to get back and be back there because I'm the 5-man, and that was really, I think, starting to cause that. I've started to notice, I think his offensive game is coming around significantly over the last really week or so, as the Lakers have really said, we're just going to go big all the time, or more, not necessarily big, let's say traditional,
right?
All the time. And that allows, I think, Kuzma to really be more back to the guy we got to see last year.
Yeah, I mean, not only has their defense improved, and by the way, it's a tiny sample size warning here, right? But The Lakers in the last 3 games, and this is the 3 games with Tyson Chandler, they're first in the league in defensive rating. And again, they're playing some poor teams, tiny sample size, all that. I don't expect them to be top in the league in the next few weeks or anything like that. But Kyle Kuzma not having to play the center position seems to have unleashed him to some degree. I mean, you think about the beginning of the season, you think about Rajon Rondo and Brandon Ingram getting suspended. And then that first game when the Lakers had to slide him in at forward because they didn't have any other options, he immediately blows up against the San Antonio Spurs, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 15 to 25 shooting. He looked like he had found a new lease on life. So I think that by adding Tyson Chandler, not only are you getting the benefits that Chandler brings, but you're also getting a better version of Kyle Kuzma out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's exactly what you're hoping for, right? Is you want to do that. And I think by putting these young guys that are in anywhere from their first to 4th season, you want those guys playing their real position and not having to play out of position. Mm-hmm. Those things can come down the line. Ask them to do that, but let them focus on what they're good at. And that's what they're doing now. The stat I think that's most important since they got Tyson Chandler, they're 3-0. And that's what really matters, right? Is you've won the last 3 games since he's been there, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a winning record, right? That's where they're at right now. And I mean, everybody was jumping on their case just a few games ago when they were losing, but now obviously the team's winning, and it seems like things are starting to turn around. So hopefully that's something that will continue. All right, Lakers fans, we're going to take a quick break to talk about Fanatics. We're so thrilled to have Fanatics as one of our sponsors today. They are the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear from all the league's teams and players that you love. They have the best selection, including trusted brands like Nike and Jordan Brand, exclusive designs by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars. Also, one of my personal favorites, they have the Jersey Assurance Program. Listen to this. If you buy a player jersey and that player is traded within 90 days, Fanatics will replace your jersey with another player from your favorite team or your favorite player's jersey with their new team. I literally have hanging in my closet a Lakers Andrew Bynum jersey that I purchased 2 months before he was traded, and it has been hanging there ever since. And now I'm the unlucky owner of an Andrew Bynum jersey that I can't really wear anymore, unless it's Summer League and I want to wear something that looks ironic. So it would have been super useful for me if I had Fanatics Jersey Assurance Program, a great way to go about things in the world of professional sports. We know how quickly things can change. Hundreds of Lakers products can be found at Fanatics, including Nike and Fanatics branded fast break jerseys for LeBron James and your favorite Lakers players. I myself got a LeBron James jersey through Fanatics, showed up right to my door. It was amazing. Join Fanatics Rewards today and earn fan cash on every purchase. You can support our podcast and get free shipping on your order through December 31st by shopping Fanatics through our link at fanatics.com/LakersNation. You guys know how much it means to us that you support the companies that support us, and Fanatics has been incredible. Definitely recommend go check it out for all of your Lakers gear. Fanatics.com/LakersNation. Another Lakers topic that I want to get to, we are going to jump around the league a little bit, and maybe this topic might make Lakers fans cringe. I'm hoping that if you're listening to this show on your phone or whatever you're listening to it on, hopefully you don't break whatever it is that you're using to listen to this right now. Don't hurl your iPhone through the window or anything, because I'm going to say this right now. Rumors that Carmelo Anthony could become a Laker. Not something Lakers fans want to hear, but what's your take on the whole situation? And do you think this is real? I know Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer was just recently saying that the Lakers were one of the teams he was hearing that Carmelo could land with. Yeah, so let's start off with it's really kind of ridiculous that he hasn't been just let go by Houston at this point. This is not, so let's compare it to Tyson Chandler. Mm-hmm. Chandler was not going to agree to any sort of buyout and give any money back until he was certain he had a place to go to, because he was making $12 million or whatever it was. So I'm not giving you $1 back until I know, all right, I'm going here and I'm going to make that money back plus maybe more, less or whatever. Now on the flip side, you have
Melo's on a minimum contract. So you just let him go. He's only going to sign another minimum contract. So he's going to make back. He's guaranteed. He's not going to give up any money. Of course, he can't give up any money. He's on the lowest contract you can have. Right. So I don't know what's exactly holding this up. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It seems like this should be done by now, and that we should have already had him out of there. As far as going to the Lakers, I don't want to pile on here, but that's something I've heard is a possibility too. I haven't heard that from anybody with the team. I think some of that's a little bit of connecting dots, and he's LeBron's guy and their buddies, right, and all those things. And
banana boat.
Yeah, right. But he's Chris Paul's guy, and right, he's leaving there. So that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. There's been some talk that maybe the Miami Heat. Why? Well, Dwayne Wade's there. That's his buddy, right? So those are the teams you're starting to hear, people starting to connect some dots with. I honestly think at this point, if I was Melo in his camp, I would say there's no rush to get right back in with another team. Wait, maybe take another month, see what kind of injuries crop up, who gets hurt, who needs a guy like him that can come in. But then that opens a whole other question of who needs a guy like Melo anymore, but he's scoring points. He's not doing it efficiently, but I think that's what we all expect at this point in his career. So I don't know where he's going to go. It's one of those things, we'll all be kind of watching for. But the first thing that needs to happen, he's just going to get released first, because not doing anything until that happens.
Keith, it's such a weird situation, because word leaked that he's played his last game with the Houston Rockets, that the players on the team are assuming that he's done, that the Houston Rockets were planning on moving on. And then Daryl Morey goes and tries to walk all that back and says, no, that's not the case. He's really just sick. And I don't think anybody bought that for a second, that he's really just sick. Why do that? Is it just the team trying to control the narrative? I'm trying to figure out the motive behind the Houston Rockets going ahead and saying, hey, he's sick. We're intending to sort things out, when it's already been released that he's gone.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the Rockets are trying to make themselves look good, or they're trying to protect Melo a little bit here. It's a very confusing situation. I've talked to a lot of people around the league, and we're all kind of coming from the same point of why is this just not done? Right. What are we doing here? This doesn't make sense to anybody. Why are we, hanging out with, this guy still on this team, even though it's plainly obvious to everyone who's, paid any attention, he doesn't want to probably be there anymore, and they don't really want him. So I not intentionally ducking your question, you're answering your question. I just don't have an answer. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't. Let's talk about this for a minute. If you're Carmelo Anthony, and assuming that, okay, let's say you wait a month or whatever, and you're looking for injuries to crop up and all that, what's your ideal landing spot? Because I've got some thoughts on this. Personally, I think that he just needs to find a situation where he can play and he can prove himself and he can show that he can still be efficient in today's NBA, wherever that may be, wherever he's going to get that opportunity. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like the prevalent thought out there is that he's going to try to find a contender to go to. What's your take? What's the ideal situation for him to land in?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this two ways. If I think his ideal situation is on it should be on a team where he can just play and find out can he play? That doesn't really make sense the way I constructed that terrible sentence. So it's go somewhere where there's minutes and we find out, does this guy still offer anything or not? Right. So if that's a Phoenix Suns or a Chicago Bulls, I don't know. I'm just Cleveland Cavaliers even. Any one of these terrible teams where it's just go there and you'll find out, can he still play? Can he rediscover his love for the game? That's fine. What I think he's going to look for is exactly what you said. I think he's going to say, well, I want to go to a contender. I don't want to play out the string, scoring 25 points per game. And in some respects, I respect him for that, because I think what have we all done? We've dumped all over this guy his entire career. Winning's not important to him. He only wants to get his numbers and his shots and all those things. And if he goes saying, hey, I'm content to go to the Utah Jazz and be their fourth big man and play, 15 minutes a night and that's it. Well, it's at that point you kind of want to say, all right, I respect it. This guy's, he just wants to win. He's doing the right thing. Unfortunately, I think Melo's past the point. I don't think he can win no matter where he goes. Mm-hmm. I think it's just that ship has sailed. So it's as you look around, I just look at it and I'm like, who needs a bench scorer? And, as we're in the middle of November here, the answer really right now is nobody. It's just, no one needs that at the moment. Maybe that develops down the line. I'd love to see him go somewhere like San Antonio, where they're going to get the absolute most they can out of him.
That was one of my thoughts too.
So yeah, if he goes to a place like that, that's great. Or even a place like maybe Memphis, where it's like a good veteran culture is there. He can just come in and they can say, all right, hey, we're going to give you the ball on the second unit for 15, 20 minutes a night. You go and do your thing, and that's better than what we have today. Where we can't put up points, then that's all right. Anything other than that, you start looking around and it's like, I don't know. Nobody jumps off the page, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough fit trying to figure out where he's going to land somewhere. I think somebody's going to take a chance on him at some point, but the question is who is it? And then what kind of a role can he have moving forward? Because he hasn't looked good in his last few stops. And I guess the big question is, can he accept no longer being a star level player, even all-star level player, perhaps even just a starter in the NBA? You look at what Vince Carter is doing with the Atlanta Hawks. And, I was watching a game with my father-in-law a couple of nights. Well, I was watching Lakers versus Hawks, and Vince Carter did a few things, and my father-in-law doesn't follow basketball very much. And he said, Vince Carter is still playing? I said, yeah, he's still playing. And he said, why? What's he doing? Why is he on a team like the Hawks? And I had to explain, he just loves playing. And there's some respect to that, to him just enjoying being part of the process and enjoying working with the young players and playing, even though he's clearly not the player that he once was. And obviously he's up there in years and all that. I don't know if Carmelo Anthony can ever make that transition, but I feel like he needs to find a team that will let him prove that he can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vince is the perfect example. Vince was one of those guys for a long time and across several different stops. It was like, what is this guy? And people would really kind of given up on him and they were out on Vince. And that's, from his, the way things ended in Toronto all through really his next couple of stops. And now all of a sudden it's like, man, Vince, like what a beloved veteran this guy is.
Yep.
We all, I know he had the Patrick McCaw thing last year, but you could tell the second that happened, he felt awful.
Yep.
And he was trying to, make sure people knew, like, hey, this wasn't, intentional. I didn't want this end result. And now, like, going back to that game you're talking about the other night against the Lakers, I tweeted, he's out there busting his tail trying to keep Tyson Chandler off the boards. So it's kind of funny. We talked about LeBron and Kuzma not wanting to play the five or not playing the five. Here's Vince Carter, smaller than either one of them, much older than both of them. And he's, out there, basically playing the five for the Hawks against Tyson Chandler, late in a close game. So it's kind of wild the way, his career's come full circle. And if Melo could pull that off, he's 34 now. So what, could maybe get another 3-4 semi-productive seasons out of it and be that guy, but the problem is, I just looked it up. He's only playing just under 30 minutes a night, which that's more than I even thought in the 10 games he's played for the Rockets, but 12 field goals in those 30 minutes. He's making sure he's getting his shots up, and he's only just over 40%. So that's really one of those things where you're looking at, this just isn't good. We really don't want this. And that's the challenge, right? We all want to say, be Olympics Melo, be Olympics Melo. Well, yeah, I don't even think he can be that anymore.
No. And I don't even know if he can be hoodie Melo anymore. That was just recently. So, it's going to be interesting to watch. I know a lot of fans of a lot of teams are keeping their fingers crossed that he doesn't wind up with them. And I guess that shows kind of how far he's fallen off. Hopefully he gets a chance to kind of recover his image and recover his career, because if he can accept being a role player on a team, I think he can still add value. But he's going to have to, make a big change and really look in the mirror and figure that out on his own. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Hims. Did you know that 66% of men lose their hair by age 35? And the thing is, when you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. It's much easier to keep the hair that you have than try to replace the hair that you've lost. So do you want a bald spot to pop up, or do you want to do something about it first? Do you want your hairline to recede, or do you want to do something about it first? Be proactive. Why do people turn to weird solutions or just do nothing when they can turn to medicine and science? It's a no-brainer. The solution is forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. Thanks to science, baldness is now optional. This is certainly something that's on my mind as my 37th birthday is approaching. It's something that I've been looking into quite a bit, and it's amazing. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical grade solutions to treat hair loss. They have a well-known generic equivalent to name brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. There's no snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements, prescription solutions backed by science. That's what Hims gives you. No waiting room, no awkward in-person doctor's visits. Save hours by going to 4hims.com. It's super easy. You answer a few quick questions. The doctor will review and can prescribe you. Products get shipped directly to your door. If you order now, my listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today right now while supplies last. See website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or pharmacy. Go to 4hims.com/Lakers. That's FORHIMS.com/Lakers. 4hims.com/Lakers. One of the things that we need to talk about here too, just kind of bouncing around, is the news that Tyson Chandler shared after practice today with the Lakers. And that was that he actually had 5 teams that wanted to sign him when they heard that he was going to be bought out by the Phoenix Suns, and that it came down to either the Warriors or the Lakers, and he ultimately picked LA. I mean, I guess that's kind of all the info that we need on the topic, but what's your take on that? To me, it was a little bit striking that Golden State is still out there trying to pick up guys when they still have DeMarcus Cousins, who hasn't even played a game yet. They're bringing in more firepower, and yet they're still trying to add veterans like Tyson Chandler.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we're going to get into what's going on with those guys right now a little bit later in the show. But I think the idea for them is bring another veteran into the room, respected guy, a guy who has a reputation of he's going to put guys in their place and not take any crap and those kind of things. Which that's what you want to see out of Tyson Chandler. So you've got that, and then I think what you look at is as you kind of go into this is it's also from Chandler's side, it's a chance with the Warriors where I might win a title, and I think that's probably important for him to be on a contender. But I'm going to guess ultimately what he looked at it was exactly what he said. DeMarcus Cousins is going to come back. And then all of a sudden, what is he going to be? A 10 minutes every other game kind of guy? Right. For them. I mean, we all know Steve Kerr does some weird stuff with his rotations, including all the way like into the finals. Guys might play 30 minutes one night and then not play at all the next and those kind of things. So we'll see. And then, so my guess is he looked at the Lakers opportunity and said, well, this team's going to be pretty good and I can play. And a lot of these guys, it's really tough. We just talked about it with Melo, but all of these veterans, they're the last ones to understand and to admit that I just don't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's kind of what we're seeing now with Tyson Chandler and with Melo. And I think Chandler is, still in that mindset of I want to play. I want to get out there. I can still do stuff. I can still help a really good team. And that's, I think, where we're at.
Yeah. Not only is it the hometown appeal with Los Angeles, but it's also that I'm sure the Lakers told him, look, we've got JaVale McGee. We can't play him 35 minutes a night like they did when they took on the Dallas Mavericks. They can't do that. They've got to trim his minutes down. So they said, look, JaVale's going to play 20 to 25 minutes. Whatever minutes he doesn't play, you get those. So you're also going to be playing somewhere between 20 to 25 minutes every night. You can count on that. I mean, he was only playing 13 minutes or so a game with the Phoenix Suns. And so I'm sure that had some appeal to him. And obviously the Lakers are glad that he did choose Los Angeles. Sticking with the Warriors, though, this whole thing kind of blew up this afternoon when word leaked that Draymond Green and Kevin Durant get into this shouting match, and it's after the game. And hey, you know what? Draymond was at fault in the game. He should have never taken off down the floor the way he did. You've got Kevin Durant on the floor. You've got Klay Thompson. For the love of God, give the ball to a shooter, Draymond, instead of just dribbling the ball off your feet and kind of sputtering down the floor as the clock expires. That was horrific from him when the Warriors were taking on the Clippers just night before last. But this whole argument becoming public, Kevin Durant obviously not being happy after the game. We're hearing that he kind of stormed off and he's going to be a free agent. Draymond brought that up. Is Kevin Durant on his way out? Does he have one foot out the door at this point? Because it kind of feels like that tension is kind of this dark cloud over the Warriors right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who believe that even before this, that this is it for Kevin Durant, that he's going to be moving on and playing, for somebody else next season, whether that be, your team there in LA, the Lakers, or whether he goes east to try and save the Knicks. There's just a lot of belief that he's going to be elsewhere, that he kind of went to Golden State and he did what he went there to do. They've won, 2 titles since he's been there, and now, working on the third one, and I think we would all still agree they're still the favorites. And I think for some of the other guys, like obviously Draymond Green, I think that kind of bristles at him a little. Is hey, I sacrificed money so you could come here. We didn't take as much money as we could, and we're made this whole thing together, and like you're not committed, and why won't you sign long term, and those kind of things. And I think that's all coming and boiling over. And obviously we know Draymond's a guy. I don't even heart on his sleeve. I mean, that heart's just out there. It's not even on his sleeve. It's out there for the world to see right from his chest. So I think it's one of those things where it's as you look at it, it's all right, they got fired up. They snapped at each other. Right? This happened, was it last year or the first year they were together? I remember we had one of these. It doesn't sound like it was quite this bad and didn't get as personal as this one did. And I know, Bob Myers and Steve Kerr have kind of said, hey, we're not perfect. We have our things that are going on, and, we've got this stuff where these guys are, they're going to get into it, and they're, competitive, and they're hotheads and those kind of things. And that's part of what makes them great too. But you have to wonder, we're in year 3 now, and it's been 2 long seasons. Even when you're sweeping playoff series, it's still, you're playing into mid to late June. And I think what you're looking at is, that's a lot of time to be together. When you've played 200 or so games together, it starts to really look at like that's almost an eternity in NBA terms. I think that's what we're seeing with the Wizards. I think those guys have just been together too long. It's like a bad marriage. And it's like, all right, would you break up already? Like all you do is pick at each other and get each other angry. I think that's where the Warriors might be heading a little bit. And I think what's unfortunate is now it's, instead of just being like play better, now it's getting to be a little personal. And once things start to turn personal, you start to wonder, is you going to be able to turn this back or not?
Yeah, I mean, and once you get past a certain point, for all their talent, what if the Warriors start to implode here? I mean, obviously other teams around the league have got to be, kind of hoping that that's the direction that this goes, because otherwise they are the heavy favorites to win an NBA championship. But if Durant and Draymond and all these guys aren't on the same page, chemistry is something that matters in NBA basketball, and it can make a big difference. So it's going to be interesting to see how this whole situation plays out. But yeah, as of right now, it feels like Kevin Durant is closer to leaving Golden State right now today than we've ever seen over the past few years.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And that goes, and I think anybody who's like, see, I told you he was going to the Lakers or the Knicks or whatever other destination you pick. I think those people are like, see, now they're feeling themselves a little bit today of, I knew it, and it's like, well, no one knew they were going to yell at each other and make it a big personal argument. And this is why I think they really wanted a guy like Tyson Chandler, because what they're lacking this year is David West.
Right.
David West was that guy in the locker room. I kind of consider David West to be like, when your dad just shot you that look and you were like, oh, I better shut up. At least I know my dad would do that. I would get that.
I got it too.
Look, right. Yeah. You get that look down the dinner table and it's like another word and it's going to be, trouble for you. Never had to say anything, never, raised a hand or anything, but you knew. And I think David West was probably that guy who that kind of stuff comes in the locker room. Never mind if he had to get up and get in between it. Now they don't have that guy. Andre Iguodala is not that guy. He's not that kind of, not that he's not a good leader and those kind of things, but he's not that kind of guy. And I think that's why they wanted a Tyson Chandler type who would come in and say, all right, no foolishness like this. We don't, we're still a team. We don't attack each other. And we certainly don't do it in a way where then it comes out and now everybody outside of the locker room knows about it. They're known as being a group that has a lot of fun and they like to do a lot of, different goofy things together and stuff like that. And I think what you're seeing with the Warriors now is it can only go on for so long before eventually someone was going to, whether it was, as Pat Riley coined it, the disease of more, somebody was going to want more money or more shots or more whatever it is. And that has to come at the expense of somebody else. And I think Draymond Green's feeling is probably like, we've all sacrificed a little bit and, you're going to come at me. So I'm going to come back at you twice as hard.
So you're Kevin Durant. The situation is not looking good in Golden State. Let's say that you're tired of it. You're done. Draymond Green, he wears his heart on his sleeve or whatever. I think Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, right? That's what Draymond is with his heart. It's not just like honest. It's out of his chest. He's holding it in the air. But you're dealing with all this. Maybe you make the decision to go ahead and leave next summer and you look around the league. You've caught a ton of flack over the last few years for joining up with the Warriors, the team that the Oklahoma City Thunder lost to. It was kind of a, if you can't beat them, join them type situation. And Kevin Durant has been vilified. So with all of that and knowing that probably matters to him, where do you go? Like what's the situation that Kevin Durant would want to step into as a free agent this next summer?
Yeah, almost always your instinct is where can he win a title? Right. But I think he's done that now, right? He won his 2 titles. He's kind of proven like, hey, I did my thing. I went out there and, got my championship. So then I start to look at the next thing you want to look at is like, what is my legacy, if you will? And I think when you look at that, there's really 3 teams that start to make sense. The first one is the Lakers, right? It's just, they're the Lakers. They're the preeminent West Coast franchise in the entire NBA. If not the preeminent franchise period in the league. But I think he's going to look at that and be like, well, LeBron's there. I'm just going to catch all the same crap I caught before. And it's still going to be exactly. And it's still going to be like, well, it's still LeBron's team. Right. Well, what did you do? So then that leaves 2 other teams for me that really start to make sense. And that's the New York Knicks, where he'd be a hero before he even, stepped foot in the state of New York. People would love him and be, they'd praise him as, the conquering hero's here and he's going to save Knicks basketball and, all the things with that. So you've got that going on. And then the other one that makes some sense to me is the Clippers, because you get everything that you get as far as being in LA. He's obviously got all these tech interests and film interests and all those things. So he's right there. And then you still get the added, I'm going to lift this team up and I'm going to be the one to bring them to, heights they've never been to and all those kind of things. So those are the teams that I'd be kind of, looking at. I have no inside information. I'm not, putting anything out there. And then I think there's also a slight chance that, everything with the Warriors they're all like, yeah, this is stupid. We're just going to continue to stay together and roll everybody for as long as we can.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, obviously Lakers fans are very familiar with the whole Shaq-Kobe rivalry, and there were years where fans were just hoping, my goodness, can these guys just put aside their differences and get along, because they're such an unstoppable duo. How many championships can they win if they can just stop being petty? And so you got to wonder, will the Golden State Warriors eventually just hit that point where they go, look, this is insane. We're the best team in the league. Clearly, if we want to keep winning championships, the best way to do that is to stay together. And maybe they do. Maybe cooler heads prevail, and that's what happens. You mentioned the New York Knicks. That's interesting to me. I mean, my goodness, you look at the Knicks right now, and they are sitting with the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They could be looking, I mean, if the Knicks land Zion Williamson, let's say they pick him up in the draft, right? And then you've got Kevin Durant coming in, plus Kristaps Porzingis coming back, and he's going to be healthy. I mean, my goodness, that could be a scary team pretty quickly. So maybe Kevin Durant looks at that situation, and it seems like something positive. And given how badly the league would certainly like to see a good team in New York, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks wound up with a very good draft pick this year. No conspiracy theories or anything like that, of course. No frozen envelope or anything, but you never know what could happen there.
But you're right. One thing on the Knicks too is look at it this way, right? They can clear enough space to get to Durant with relative ease. There's not a whole major thing they're going to have to do to get to that point. So now you've got Durant. You mentioned, let's say they draft Zion, and let's say they get Kristaps is back and going. That team still has Tim Hardaway Jr. under contract, who's having a phenomenal year.
Yeah, he's been great.
Could fit in as a wing shooter, running the wing with those guys and doing his thing. And then you have Frank Ntilikina, who is a defense first point guard who wants to make plays. So that sounds kind of perfect with a Durant-led offense where he doesn't really want the ball and doesn't want to shoot. And then, you mentioned Kevin Knox. If he starts to, really come into his own quickly, all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, then you're a couple veteran minimum signings away from that team's probably pretty interesting and pretty frisky in the Eastern Conference. So it's one of those, and I always go back to look at what happened with KD and the Warriors. We started hearing this a year away. The Warriors, could do this. And we all, not all of us, but most of us collectively dismiss it as like, what? That's insane. And then they push the Warriors right to the brink of elimination. And then people were still like, I don't know, it might still be the Warriors. And we kind of, the rest of us doubled down. Like, he almost beat them. He's not going to go there. And then look what happened. So I always say in the NBA, if there's smoke, there's probably fire somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean, I don't want to be insensitive of what's going on out there in California. It's all very sad, and all that. So, maybe a poor choice of words on my part. But, but what I'm trying to get at is it's whenever those things are going on, if you start hearing it, it's at least worth listening to and looking into because there's probably something more there than just openly dismissing it right out of hand.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, of just the whole situation where you could have something come from these rumors, we also can't ignore that just as the Knicks will have some space and some interesting options here, the Lakers managed to clear just enough space with the Luol Deng buyout agreement to sign Kevin Durant to a max deal. I mean, just barely, right? I mean, did they just barely get under that number where they could give Kevin Durant a full max offer?
They're either right about there. They can get there easy enough, right? Because they're, even if it really, as blasphemous as this might be, but if it was, hey, we need to dump Josh Hart or Kyle Kuzma to get Kevin Durant, guess what? Buy Josh Hart or Kyle Kuzma. Right. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Or even Mo Wagner. I mean, he makes more money than Hart or Kuzma does next year at $2 million. Or Isaac Bond. They're either just there or they're just shy. And either way, it's easy enough to just say, all right, done. Right. We're good. We can get there. We don't need to worry about it. So I mean, there's no worry at all that if the Lakers need to get there a little bit, that they can get there because their only double-figure contract on the books next year is LeBron at $37.4 million. Everybody else under $10 million. So when you have that kind of cap flexibility, it's easy. And all those other guys that are under that $10 million, they're all very easily movable. And you could even move them and get back, something good in return if you needed to, which is, that's even a little more scary.
Yeah, exactly. They could change things very quickly. Scary for Lakers fans would be the Clippers option. We're hearing the Clippers are an option for Kawhi Leonard. We're hearing that they're an option for a number of these top flight free agents. So if you wind up with Kevin Durant in the mix there too, I mean, that could change the battle for LA very quickly. Obviously, if KD or some of these other stars go there. So that could be a little bit concerning, but all in all, I mean, this is, for a season, and maybe we said this last season too, but for a season where it was expected that the Golden State Warriors were going to just cruise to an NBA title, there is a whole lot of drama and intrigue even early on. I mean, this is an interesting season around the NBA, probably beyond what anybody expected going into it. Guys, we're going to take a break for just 1 second because I need to tell you about this. I love when I discover companies that solve for those pesky tasks or problems we all have. And one that I tried recently is called Simple Contacts, and it's a total game changer for anyone who wears contact lenses. If you wear contacts, then you know how annoying it is to get a prescription year after year just to be able to buy more contacts. And you always seem to run out of lenses right before a big event like a vacation or a wedding. Well, Simple Contacts is changing all that by using technology to make renewing your prescription and buying contacts super, super simple. Here's how it works. Use your phone or computer. You can take the Simple Contacts vision test in 5 minutes from literally anywhere, your couch, your office, the airport, the park, whatever. A real doctor then reviews your test in 24 hours and writes you a new prescription, and boom, a fresh supply of your brand of lenses is on the way to your door. No appointments, no waiting rooms, no overpaying. Simple Contacts brings the doctor's office to wherever you are, whenever you need it. And if you have an unexpired prescription, just upload a photo of it or your doctor's info and order your lenses in minutes for a great price. They do all the hard work for you. Vision care for the 21st century here by Simple Contacts. They offer every brand of lenses and their prices are unbeatable. The prescription is just $20. The contact lens prices are so low and shipping is free. Best of all, my listeners get $20 off their first Simple Contacts order. To save $20 on your lenses, just go to simplecontacts.com/LakersNation20 or enter the code Lakers20 at checkout. I want to mention that this isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam. You still need one of those occasionally, but it is the most convenient way to renew a prescription and reorder your contacts if your vision hasn't changed. Again, check out Simple Contacts and get $20 off by going to simplecontacts.com/LakersNation20 or just enter the code Lakers20 at checkout. Give it a try, guys. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, absolutely. It really has been one of those seasons where it's like, wow, I think you also factor in that we've got a handful of teams that are expected to be really good that are struggling out of the gate. You know, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Rockets, those teams are all, they're not quite where I think a lot of people thought, even if you want to go to a team like the Utah Jazz, right around 500 early on. And I think I'm not worried about any of those teams. They're all going to be fine, and they're going to get there and they'll go. And some of these other teams that are playing better than expected, they'll start to drop off a little bit. But it's really interesting to see. I think we're also looking at a league where there's a little more balance in the conferences than what we have seen in, gosh, I don't know how long. You could say that.
Decades.
Yeah, definitely decades. And part of that started with Kawhi getting sent east. And now we see Jimmy Butler has been sent to the Eastern Conference. And I think you're starting to look at it and say, hey, maybe, the East it's not what it was. It's not there's no Cleveland and LeBron there, so you're not just saying, well, I don't care if they're, 10 games under 500, halfway through the year, they're just going to, lay waste to everybody once the playoffs come anyway. That team's not there anymore. And you're starting to look at it. And I think what's going to be interesting is in the East, I think you're going to have a lot of teams that say, you know what? Let's go for it. If you're the Indiana Pacers or the Milwaukee Bucks and somebody else unexpectedly comes on the market, I could see them saying, you know what, we have a good as chance as anybody else. Let's get there. And if it's the Warriors look the slightest bit vulnerable, that starts to change that equation in the West as well, where teams start to say, we might be able to get them. Well, let's go do it. And I think a lot of teams are looking at it as Houston was right there. They were one bad shooting game from knocking the Warriors off their perch. And that might have changed the way the whole summer went. And I think now teams are saying, why not us? Why can't we be the ones that push in and get there? And that makes the whole league that much more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think the Golden State Warriors are still the heavy favorites. Vegas certainly agrees. But outside that, everything feels very much wide open. I mean, if anything happens with the Warriors, if there's chemistry issues, if there's an injury, something like that goes on, suddenly, I mean, there's no true favorite across the league. If you pull the Golden State Warriors off the chessboard, there's not that second team. And I mean, if there's anybody right now, it's probably the Toronto Raptors would be the next team to really step up and be the team to beat if you're looking at what they've done so far. Them or perhaps the Milwaukee Bucks, both Eastern Conference teams. The Bucks have the best point differential in the league right now. So it does feel like there is more balance between the East and the West, particularly at the top. Maybe not the bottom of the Eastern playoff table, but at least at those top 5 teams or so, the East has got some real quality here, and it's I think it's going to make for a really exciting season and better season, really.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The top 5 in the East, I think maybe the Pacers you put a slight tier under, but yeah, right. Toronto, Boston, probably Milwaukee at this point. A lot of that's the Giannis factor, and then the Philly team there, especially with Butler, unless that goes sideways. I think you look at that and you say, we'll put them against anybody that's not the Warriors. We're no problem, with that. Now, I think that's a little disrespectful to a team like Portland, who is really, really good. And I don't know how long they're going to have to be really good before we're all like, you know what? They're pretty good. I mean, I was guilty of it too. I was like, well, I got to pick, LeBron's with the Lakers now, so they're a playoff team. Who's coming out? And the first choice was, well, probably Portland.
I thought it was going to be them too.
So, and then the more I looked at it, I ended up saying, I don't really like what Minnesota did. They barely made it last year. I was very down on the Spurs because I'm an idiot, and I was the moron who picked the Spurs to finish way low, even though they never do. Right. So it's, but those top teams in the East, they're no joke now, and you're not just kind of sitting there waiting and being like, oh, that's cute. Who's coming out just to get stomped by Golden State? Now it's mid-November. Let's talk again around Christmas.
Right.
Maybe the Warriors don't lose again between now and Christmas, and the East teams all start to kind of become a jumbled mess at the top and all that. But I think the other thing with those teams in the East, what's kind of looming out there is Boston hasn't played well. And I think there's this very collective sense of when they figure it out, I wouldn't be surprised if they rip off something, 17, 18 wins in a 20-game span, and they just start, rolling through these East teams. They already got one West Coast trip out of the way. That's tough. And they hit a lot of the tough places. They were in Denver. They were in Utah, I'm sorry, not Denver, but Utah and Portland, so they hit some of the tough spots early on that road trip. And now you're going to look back at it and they were in Denver. That's right. I was right. I was like, that feels right. But those are a lot of the tougher places to play. And now they're going to get into, they're starting to get into the Chicago. They have them on Wednesday night this week. And then they've got a game coming up with the Hawks and the Cavaliers game. And all of a sudden, their 7-6 record, you might look up and be like, whoa, wait a minute. How are they 20-8? And then it's like, what happened here? And then all of a sudden it just starts, compounding. And I think that's what you're looking for when you really start to talk about the East is if Boston gets this figured out, now you've legit got these teams that are going to say, I don't care. We can get the Warriors. We can beat them.
Yeah. And that's where the benefit is from being in the East, not so much against the top teams in the East. But look, if you look at the team that's just missing out on the playoffs, right? You're looking at the 9 seed right now in the East. You're getting the Orlando Magic, who you're probably going to beat up on most nights. In the West right now, the 9 seed is the Utah Jazz.
Yeah,
I mean it's a whole different amount of depth. But at the top, I think the conferences are actually fairly comparable this season, minus the Golden State Warriors, and who knows, Houston could come back. But you're right. I mean, Boston could get going here in the East, and then you've really got a serious dogfight there in that conference. Man, this season, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, there's some amazing things happening right now in the NBA and some exciting things. And it just still goes back to how great this is, given how sort of predetermined this season felt when it started.
Yeah, you can say that, and a lot of people do. They love to say, well, the Warriors are just going to win, so I'll see you in June. And it's like, and if you want to say that, you can't really counter it, because they're probably more right than they are wrong. But to me, then you're going to miss all the good stuff. And I look at it, and I was looking at this with a friend the other day, and I said, and he's like, wow, there's some, teams that kind of stink. And I was like, oh, like who? And he's like, well, like the Hawks. And I was like, yeah, but they're so fun. They have Trae Young and they get, all these young guys and they do all this stuff. And he's like, well, what about the Suns? And I was like, well, yeah, they're bad, but DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. And, and I started looking at those teams at the bottom, really outside of Cleveland, which is, just they're a tire fire. There is not a single team that I look at I'm going to add one other with the Washington Wizards because I'm just tired of them. There's not a team that I'm like, boy, that team sucks. And there's nothing there. Like when they come around on the schedule, it's just like, I don't want to see them. Everybody else has at least something interesting going on. And when I look at the West, kind of make your point of when you look at who's sitting in that kind of 9-10 range, there's one easy win in the West, and that's Phoenix. Even the Kings are 8-6, and playing
they've been good
basketball.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, so I don't even know that they're going to be, you used to look at the West and say, all right, well, we'll load up. We'll at least get 8 wins over the Kings and Suns combined, in our 8 games against them. And then we'll, that's 8 on the board, and let's figure out how we get the other, 35. And now we're, winning record, and off we go. And now I think you're looking at it like, oh, shoot. Where are these other wins coming from? And in the East, there's still the Bulls, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Cavaliers. Those teams, you feel pretty good that you're going to go in there and, if you get 16 games against those 4 teams, you're probably going to win minimum 12 or 13 or 14 of them and feel, really good that you're banking those. So that's definitely that's where the conference imbalance still exists, and it is going to probably for a while. And one of the things I always go back to with that is, let's look at the Kings. Well, yeah, they've been bad, but they've never been truly terrible where they're, a 15 win team.
Right.
But what it's done is, because they're in the West, they get pushed down. They add good players on good players on good players. And now all of a sudden it's like, crap, they're actually starting to play pretty good. We're in the West. Let's look at a team like Orlando. Orlando's never been able to fully get down to the bottom because they end up hanging in around, the middle of the pack and the middle of that non-playoff pack in the East. Or a team like the Pistons. They've never been bad enough to get a really good player, but they're never good enough to be really good either. And that's where it starts to get messy. So, and
that's where you can get stuck on the whole treadmill and be stuck there forever. And even, you mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers as being the sort of the sad sacks of the Eastern Conference. They beat the Charlotte Hornets by 24 points tonight. I mean, you never know what's gonna happen there. So incredible stuff. Keith, I think that's a good spot to kind of wrap things up here. Any final thoughts before we get out of here and call it a night?
No, I mean, we were all over the place tonight, which is, a lot of fun. And like I just, again, I say to anybody who's like, I'll just watch, in the playoffs, you're going to miss a lot of good stuff if you do that. This rookie class is unbelievably good. Don't miss these guys. When you have the chance to see these guys play, well, watch them play. There's so many good things out there that you can see. I'm biased. This is my favorite sport. I love basketball more than, anything outside of my family and friends. And, so for me, I'm content to watch the Hawks and Knicks play on a Sunday afternoon, over watching another crappy NFL game that I don't want to see. So I'm very happy to do that. But, when it's sitting around those people like, I don't care, I'll just watch, in June and, see the Warriors win again. Well, all right, if you want to, but you're going to miss a lot of good stuff. So, hang in there. We've got a really fun season going on, and we're only a month in.
Definitely. All good reasons to go ahead and watch some NBA basketball. And this season has been an absolute blast. And it's been exciting for Lakers fans and fans of all other teams in the league. It's been an awesome season, and we can't wait for more. Keith, thanks so much for joining me, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on and lending us your thoughts on, we really did jump around the league. So on just about everything going on in the NBA right now.
Yeah, we hit on all the good stories. And, in lieu of telling people where they can find me and my stuff, they all know that by now. I've been on your show enough. I just want to lend my, thoughts are with everybody out there. I know a lot of your listener bases in California. All the best to everyone out there. That's, really scary. My family and I lived out there for a year and a half and went through, a series of fires, but nothing like this. And it's just, be safe, people over stuff. You can always rebuild stuff and recollect stuff. So, just be safe out there. We're all thinking of you and, doing what we can from, this side of the country.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are obviously thoughts with everybody who was affected by this. In fact, you guys know Hannah Kulik, who comes on this show fairly often, and she was going to be on tonight, but her family evacuated from their home. It sounds like everything's going to be okay and everything's fine, but they don't have power back yet, so she's not able to come on and join us tonight. But yeah, I mean, so we all know people that have been affected by this, and hopefully everybody stays safe out there, because it's obviously a very difficult time for everybody in California, and of course the entire country is with them in that. I guess let's wrap things up there. Again, guest today, Keith Smith of Real GM Yahoo and Celtics blog. Guys, make sure you follow us on LakersNation.com. Check out the Lakers Nation postgame show on Facebook Live. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to this show. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. If you want to follow Keith on Twitter, he's a great follow. Keith's at Keith Smith NBA. Till next time, guys. See ya.